Welcome to Weekly News Highlights, where we bring you some of the biggest stories that made the headlines this week. I'm Song Yoo-jin, coming to you from Arirang's virtual studio. We're almost halfway through the Paris 2024 Summer Olympic Games. For a midway recap of the Games, here are some of the best moments from Team Korea this week, from the medal triumphs to the historic firsts. Moving on, tensions are boiling over in the Middle East following the death of Hamas's political leader on Wednesday. The big question now is, will this escalate into a wider conflict in a region already dealing with an almost 10-month-long war? Finally, after inking a key security cooperation framework with the United States and Japan last weekend to better respond to increasing provocations from North Korea, South Korea will also establish a security command with a similar purpose. We start this week with some of Team Korea's outstanding performances at the Paris 2024 Summer Olympic Games. Despite being less than halfway through the Games, South Korea has already exceeded its initial goal of winning 5 gold medals. Now this week, the Golden Journey was all about precision sports, fencing, archery, and shooting. Saber fencer Oh Sang-wook clinched Team Korea's first gold at Paris 2024 in the men's saber individual event and later made history as the first Korean fencer to win 2 golds at a single Olympic Games by leading the men's team to their 3rd consecutive gold. The women's archery team, consisting of Chun Won-young, Im Si-hyun, and Nam Soo-hyun, secured Korea's 10th consecutive Olympic gold in the women's team event. The men's archery team also struck gold in their competition. In shooting, Oh Ye-jin took home gold in the women's 10-meter air pistol, while Ban Hyo-jin earned South Korea's 100th Summer Olympics gold, becoming the country's youngest gold medalist at just 16. Meanwhile, judoka Heo Mi won silver, marking Korea's first Olympic medal in women's judo in 8 years. In swimming, Kim Woo-min added to Team Korea's tally with a bronze in the men's 400-meter freestyle, making him the 2nd Korean swimmer to win an Olympic medal since Park Tae-hwan in 2012. In table tennis, Im Jong-hoon and Shin Yoo-bin won bronze in the mixed doubles, securing South Korea's first Olympic table tennis medal in 12 years. Shifting focus, last month, a South Korean consortium was announced as the preferred bidder to build 2 nuclear power plants in the Czech Republic. Now, at the first cabinet meeting after the announcement, President Yoon Suk-yeol emphasized the importance of strengthening the foundation for the nuclear power industry, aiming to secure future international projects. Our presidential office correspondent Kim Do-yeon has more on what was discussed at the meeting.
At the first cabinet meeting following South Korea being selected as the preferred bidder for the Czech Republic's nuclear energy project, President Yoon Suk-yeol said on Tuesday he wants to lay a strong foundation to build on from this for more projects around the world, with a special law dedicated to the industry.
원전 산업 지원 특별법을 제정하고 원전 생태계 복원과 수출 지원 정책을 더욱 강력하게 그리고 일관되게 추진해서 앞으로 제3, 제4의 수주가 이어지도록 다 함께 노력합시다.
The project, he says, was only possible as the current administration had chosen to foster the industry after the former administration had declared an exit from nuclear power. And the news, he says, has allowed South Korea to have a strong footing in the global nuclear reactor market. This new project is worth 24 trillion Korean won, or $17.4 billion for 2 new reactors at the Dukovany nuclear power plant. President Yoon also said he will be visiting the country, quote, as soon as possible to discuss with his Czech counterpart a successful completion of the contract signing while discussing expanding cooperation between the 2 countries as a whole. In the meantime, President Yoon also explained that the new tax revision proposed by the government last week focuses on boosting the economy and supporting the lives of citizens through lowering corporate tax rates and expanding investment tax credits.
기업의 투자가 늘어야 일자리가 늘고 경제의 온기가 돕니다. 국가 전략 기술에 대한 세제 혜택을 연장하고 투자를 늘린 기업에 대해 법인세 감면 혜택도 확대할 것입니다.
The tax revisions also include expanding tax-free inheritance from the current 50 million Korean won to 500 million, or around 360,000 US dollars. Yoon said the current system does not reflect the economic status of the nation, and so he had requested that the National Assembly discuss the proposed changes. However, the opposition-led parliament is unlikely to accept all the changes, and this remains a hurdle for the government. Meanwhile, wrapping up the meeting, President Yoon also reminded everyone to take all necessary measures to combat disasters such as heat waves, typhoons, and floods, as South Korea is currently under heat alerts following weeks of monsoon rains. He called on relevant agencies to ensure there were no casualties. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
And now to the latest developments of last month's tragic car crash in downtown Seoul that killed 9 people. The critical question has been whether the driver intentionally sped up and drove through a pedestrian area. On Thursday, the police concluded that it was caused by, quote, poor driving. Cha Yoon-kyung has the details and what will happen next.
After a month-long investigation into the car crash that claimed the lives of 9 people, Seoul Namdaemun Police Station stated that the car crash was caused by driver's mistakes, not by a sudden unintended acceleration of the vehicle as claimed by the elderly driver. Police have forwarded the case of the 68-year-old driver, surnamed Cha, to the prosecution under the Act on Special Cases concerning the settlement of traffic accidents this morning. The suspect's car, along with its black box recording and EDR data, had been sent to the National Forensic Service on July 2nd for analysis. Police said Cha is consistently claiming that it was an accident caused by defects in the vehicle. However, they noted that the National Forensic Service analysis revealed no mechanical defect was found in the acceleration and brake systems. The event data recorder was also operating normally. According to an analysis of the EDR, the brake was not applied 5 seconds before the accident happened. Police also reviewed CCTV recordings from the accident site and black box data. Their investigation showed that Cha had pressed the accelerator instead of the brake. There was also evidence showing records of him stepping on and off the accelerator, and scuff marks on his shoes matched marks on the accelerator pedal. Cha was formally arrested on Tuesday after a court issued an arrest warrant for his role in the crash that left 9 people dead and 7 people injured on July 1st. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
And now to the turmoil in the Middle East. Hamas's political chief, Ismail Haniyeh, was assassinated on Wednesday in the Iranian capital. And his death has led to threats of revenge on Israel and sparked concerns that the conflict in Gaza could turn into a wider regional war. So for more on how this could impact the situation in the region, we have our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji in the studio. Welcome, Eun-ji.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for your time today. So Eun-ji, first of all, tell us what happened in Tehran.
So Ismail Haniyeh was visiting Iran, which is one of Hamas' most crucial allies, to attend the inauguration of Iran's new president. The 62-year-old was the international face of Hamas and is the highest-ranking Hamas official killed by Israel since the militant group's October 7th attack last year. The funeral for Haniyeh took place in Tehran this week, with Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei himself leading the prayers. Thousands of people gathered on the streets of Iran's capital to mourn the Hamas leader.
Right, and following this, I heard that the Iran's leader has actually ordered a revenge attack on Israel, which seems pretty serious because it could escalate into a wider war in the region, right?
Right, the assassination of the Hamas chief has drawn threats of revenge on Israel. Citing 3 unnamed Iranian officials, the New York Times said Iran's supreme leader gave an order to attack Israel at an emergency meeting of the country's Supreme National Security Council on Wednesday morning, shortly after Tehran announced that the Hamas chief had been killed. It also reported that Iran is considering simultaneous attacks from other countries where it has allied forces, including Yemen, Syria, and Iraq, to maximize the impact of their retaliation. An analyst says the latest assassination is expected to lead to deep tension and uncertainty in the Middle East.
What this does mean is that we're going to continue to be in this drip cycle of escalation and de-escalation. And there is no real clear off-ramp to address these security dynamics across the region. And effectively, without addressing the conflict between Israel and Iran, there will be these ebbs and flows for the coming months, if not longer.
And talking about who carried out the attack, Israel has not claimed to have carried it, but many presume that Israel has carried it out, right?
That's right. Iran and Hamas have both accused Israel of the assassination, but Israel has neither acknowledged nor denied killing Haniyeh. The Israeli Prime Minister simply vowed to respond forcefully to any attack on the country.
We are prepared for any scenario and will stand united and determined against any threat. Israel will exact a heavy price from any aggression against us on any front.
And tell us about the response from other countries.
Although Iran has held the U.S. responsible for the assassination, the U.S. has denied involvement. The State Department says it still believes a ceasefire deal is achievable and that the U.S. is going to continue to urge restraint to all parties to avoid an escalation into a wider regional conflict.
We continue to believe a deal is possible. Getting a deal done is of vital importance for so many reasons that I've spent much of this week talking about, whether it be bringing hostages home, whether it's getting an influx of humanitarian aid, being able to partake in diplomacy to get this region out of endless cycles of violence.
In other parts of the world, thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters took to the streets in the West Bank and countries, including Turkey, Pakistan, Jordan, and Morocco. In central Istanbul on Wednesday, demonstrators rallied in the streets, holding posters with Haniyeh's photos and chanting, "The people of Palestine are not alone."
People come and go, but ideas and stances never die. If one Haniyeh is killed, thousands of Haniyehs will be born. This is our belief. Palestinians will become even stronger and continue their resistance, and we will continue to support them from here.
And this political chief isn't the only Hamas official that has been killed recently, because the Israeli military confirmed this week that the head of the group's military wing is also dead.
That's right. The Israeli military confirmed that Mohammad Deif, one of the masterminds behind the October 7th attack, was killed in an airstrike in southern Gaza last month. Israel's defense minister called Deif the Osama bin Laden of Gaza and called his death a significant milestone in the process of dismantling Hamas as a governing authority in Gaza. In recent weeks, Israeli officials said their strikes have been successful, but were not able to confirm that he was dead until now. Deif's death would make him the highest-ranking Hamas military official killed in the Gaza Strip since the start of the war that started more than 9 months ago.
All right, so we'll have to see how the situation turns out in the Middle East. Thank you for your time today, Eunji.
My pleasure.
Staying on the international front, the biggest prisoner exchange between Russia and the West since the end of the Cold War took place on Thursday, releasing 24 detainees, 16 who were held in Russian detention and 8 in the West. Now, Moscow released Wall Street Journal reporter American Evan Gershovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan, while the West released Vadim Kraskov, who was convicted in Germany and sentenced to life in prison for killing a former Chechen rebel 2 years ago. According to the White House, the U.S. negotiated the trade with Russia, Germany, and 3 other countries. On the defense front, last weekend, the defense chiefs of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan held a trilateral security meeting in Tokyo, where they signed a memorandum on their landmark Trilateral Security Cooperation Framework, institutionalizing high-level security talks and information sharing. Now, in an interview during his visit to Japan, Seoul's defense minister said the North could carry out its 7th nuclear test sometime around the U.S. presidential election scheduled for early November. Moon Hae-ryun explains why this could be a plausible scenario.
North Korea may be planning a nuclear test near the time of the presidential election in the United States, according to South Korea's defense minister in a recent interview. On Monday, Bloomberg published its interview with the Minister of National Defense Shin Won-sik during his visit to Tokyo for a trilateral security cooperation meeting with South Korea, the US, and Japan. as well as discussing the deal between the three countries to standardize the tracking of North Korean missiles and other gains in security cooperation. He stated that Pyongyang has completed preparations for a nuclear test.
North Korea always does something very provocative, such as an ICBM or nuclear test, before a U.S. or South Korean election. That is, except when they don't.
Despite past summits between Kim Jong-un and former U.S. President Donald Trump, the regime has been critical of the Biden administration and ignored calls to resume denuclearization talks. The current Republican candidate has frequently mentioned Kim in recent campaign speeches, suggesting that he will improve relations if he wins re-election. However, Pyongyang state-run news agency stated that North Korea does not care which administration takes office in the U.S.
If President Trump was willing to cancel exercises and the rotational deployment of nuclear-capable assets, then they may be willing to have another summit, and then they might dangle an offering of.
The last nuclear test by North Korea was in 2017, and the regime is estimated to have 80 to 90 warheads, with ambitions to increase that number. Defense Minister Shin also said that South Korea, the US and Japan have enhanced real-time data sharing on missile launches since December, with standard operating procedures almost finalized. Additionally, Shin highlighted North Korea's military cooperation with Russia, which includes arms transfers of 12,000 containers in total to support Russia's efforts in Ukraine. Shin's visit to Japan marks the first by a South Korean defense minister in 15 years, reflecting improved relations and enhanced security cooperation under President Yoon Suk-yeol. 문혜련, Arirang News.
In related news, with the possibility of North Korean nuclear tests on the horizon, South Korea has decided to establish a strategic command by the end of this year to bolster deterrence against nuclear and missile threats. Our North Korean affairs correspondent Kim Jong-sil tells us more about this command.
At the cabinet meeting held on Tuesday morning, a motion was approved to establish a strategic command. The new command will integrate and operate the military strategic assets to deter attacks from nuclear weapons or other weapons of mass destruction. According to the Defense Ministry, the command will operate under the supervision of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and it will work closely with the ROK U.S. Combined Forces Command. Moving forward, the Strategic Command will conduct joint exercises and drills with its U.S. counterparts based on recent joint nuclear deterrence and operations guidelines signed by the two countries. Initial plans include deploying units specializing in missile warfare, cyber operations, and drones. The Defense Ministry plans to increase personnel in the latter half of the year and aims to complete the construction of facilities and control systems at Namtaeryong in southern Seoul, where the Capital Defense Command is located. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
And meanwhile, South Korea's exports continue to grow in July, driven by strong global demand for chips. Our economics correspondent Park Gun-woo examines whether this upward trend will persist throughout the year.
South Korea's exports rose for the 10th consecutive month in July. According to the Trade Ministry's data released on Thursday, the value of exports rose by nearly 14% on year last month, reaching around $57.5 billion. That's the second largest amount for any July so far. 11 out of the 15 major exporting items, including chips and petroleum products, have all seen increases over spanning several months, including July. The export value for semiconductors, one of the country's largest shipping items, exceeded $11 billion last month, up by more than 50% on year. That's the fourth consecutive on-year increase of more than 50% since April. Automobile exports dropped by around 9% compared to the previous year, due to the car industry's summer vacation seasons, which started earlier than last year at the end of July. By destination, 8 out of the 9 major shipping regions, including China, the US, and ASEAN, saw jumps in exports. Shipments to China recorded an on-year increase of nearly 15% last month, at over $11 billion, mainly due to increases in intermediate goods like semiconductors, as the IT market has been recovering recently. That's also the 5th straight month that the country has exceeded the $10 billion mark for exports to the region. Exports to the US saw an all-time record high for any July, reaching $10.2 billion, up 9.3% on year. Imports in July came to around $53.8 billion, up 10.5% on year. That resulted in a trade surplus of more than $3.6 billion, making it the 14th consecutive monthly surplus since June last year. With robust trading last month,
The Trade Ministry hinted at a bright forecast for exports in the latter half of the year.
Usually, exports are high in June and drop slightly in July. But there was a good start for the second half of the year as July's performance was better than June this year.
Another expert also spoke about the rosy prospects for chips in the latter half of the year.
Part of the increase is because of higher demand for semiconductors due to increasing investment in AI. Now, if interest rates do fall at the second half of the year as expected, then that will mean a boost to high-tech sectors.
But the expert also said that the increasing trend might not be permanent and added lowering costs and reforming regulations for exporting firms can be ways to extend the period longer. Park Go-nu, Arirang News.
Over in the U.S., ending a two-day policy meeting, the Federal Reserve kept interest rates in the 5.25 to 5.5% range for the 8th straight time on Wednesday. In a press conference on the same day, U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said that the economy is moving closer to an appropriate point for a rate cut, but that the Fed has decided the economy was not at that point just yet. However, Powell also strongly suggested that if inflation continues to come into line with the central bank's 2% target, as it slowly has been, then a rate cut could be possible as early as the Fed's next meeting in September. Meanwhile, South Korean Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok emphasized that uncertainties linger over when and how much the Fed would cut interest rate cuts, and added that the South Korean government would remain vigilant to respond accordingly. On the cultural front, this week, K-pop made history on the mainstream Billboard 200 chart, with Stray Kids and BTS member Jimin claiming the top two spots. It's the first time K-pop albums have dominated the top two positions on this mainstream chart. Now, this incredible achievement is all thanks to the passionate fans of K-pop and broader the Korean wave. But what exactly fuels these fans' love for K-culture? Our Iuni has some of their inspiring stories.
Monica Mok, a 26-year-old social media influencer from Mexico, first discovered Korean culture in 2018 when she began listening to BTS.
It started with K-pop and then eventually started moving to Korean dramas, Korean culture, Korean skincare, Korean style, and all the different things that involve the Korean wave.
When she made friends and discovered communities that shared her passion for K-pop, she found a new focus for her social media content. She saw how the Korean wave has deeply influenced so many people, creating a vibrant connection between Latin America and South Korea, and she dreams of experiencing it up close. According to a Korea Foundation report, in 2023, Mexico, leading Korean wave fan growth, had seen an 80% increase from the previous year, ranking second overall.
Doing dance covers, meeting new people that love what I do and what they also love doing, and we can share that, has been an amazing experience that also kind of gives me more things to do with my life and more to live for.
In July, Monica and her dance team won first place in their very first K-pop cover contest. In the coming years, she plans to compete in higher level contests where winners earn a trip to South Korea.
I know that this opportunity leads to other opportunities that might give us another type of job or another type of opportunities that we can go through and eventually maybe even go to Korea, represent Mexico or represent our country through dancing or through doing what we love.
Homeira Rasoli's story began when a Korean friend she met in Afghanistan introduced her to Korean culture, an experience she now considers one of her greatest blessings. However, after the Taliban took over the government of Afghanistan 3 years ago, her family was forced to flee to Pakistan. Now, at 20 years old, she dreams of visiting Korea to pursue a career in journalism.
It was my biggest dream since my childhood to become a glorious journalist, and that was my biggest dream, and still it is. I will never give up. All of problems I have, I will never give up.
Homeira finds Korea's history deeply inspiring, especially its fight for freedom during Japanese colonial rule, as it resonates with the challenges in her own country.
I love about the culture, the language, the people, the history I've learned, and a lot of from Korean people, because of their history, they are such a resilient people, and they are so strong. They never accept the failure, and they were my source of motivation and my hard times.
This has fueled her hopes of similar strength in her home country, especially for Afghan women who are excluded from society and denied basic rights, such as going to school, the park, or restaurants.
No matter where I am, which country I am, I will raise the voice of women. I will tell the facts about Afghanistan, about the situation of Afghanistan, about the security situation. I will tell to the world, all of people around the world, I will tell.
The situation in Pakistan is no better, with immigrants facing barriers when it comes to employment and education. Despite these struggles, Humaira is focusing on her own studies and hopes to learn Korean in a more formal setting. During these difficult days, K-pop has been a major source of strength for her, with songs like D-Day by Suga and Still With You by Jungkook providing support and encouragement.
They always say in their lyrics that never give up, you're the best, what gender you are, with country you're the best, and those are words that come in my mind. It's not just my dream, but it's just my target in these years. I want to come, if I can, I want to apply for universities, especially for Yonsei University.
Their journeys are far from complete. Monica envisions a new cultural wave emerging from the blend of Korean and Latin influences. Humaira aspires to one day advocate for women in Afghanistan through her work as a journalist. Though their journeys may differ, they all see South Korea as their dream destination and hope it will bring a new chapter filled with opportunities and exciting experiences. Yoon-hee, Arirang News.
And that's all for Weekly News Highlights this week. Thank you for watching, and on behalf of all of us here at Arirang, hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.